So yeah, I'm Novosti, Buta. I don't know which hat I should wear when introducing myself. Maybe let me start with the less relevant one in this context, then end with the most relevant one. So in my daytime, I am heading operations in one of the local organizations here in the Western Cape. Effective from last year, September. But before that, I was heading programs in a different organization. Then, but I came across the mentorship movement. I guess it's mostly affiliated to my private company, which is Update Consulting, which I guess I will have an opportunity to tell you more about it as part of the interview at a later stage, where I founded the organization or the company mostly driven by the kind of loneliness that entrepreneurs and business leaders usually go through. It can be quite a lonely space if you're an entrepreneur, because sometimes you find it hard or difficult to find somebody that you can open up to or confide in and tell all your business challenges, for example. That goes to include even for organizations and companies that have got boards, because you'll be scared that the board might think I'm incompetent. How can I be failing this? Whereas companies like my own, which is Apply Consulting, kind of like also offers that kind of safe space where people can confidentially vent out and perhaps get a couple of insights on how maybe they can go about to resolve or deal with the challenges that they experience.
Is what motivated you to join the National Mentorship Movement / VNA program?
So, as I've already briefly mentioned, for business leaders and entrepreneurs, um, that space can be quite lonely. And I guess entrepreneurs and leaders do need a space where they can feel safe to either share their frustrations or seek guidance or just vent out. And it's something that unfortunately most leaders, including myself, I never got to have access to. I wish I had a mentor when I first started my business, somebody whom could give me insights and guidance. But unfortunately, I could not have the ideal person for me to go to either vent out or express my frustrations. Yes, I may have had mentors in my professional space, in my daytime job, but being an entrepreneur and back then I wasn't a business leader when I started Apply Consulting. So I wish I had somebody that I could confide to and just express myself. And whereas as an entrepreneur, you don't even have a board that can be kind of a sounding board for you. So basically, you're on your own. You have to deal with all your frustrations, all in isolation. Then when the mentorship movement approached me, I was like, perfect shot. This is something I never had. It's something that I believe many out there are actually dying to have, just like I was dying to have it when I needed it but couldn't have any. So I jumped in for the sake of making my contribution as part of giving back to the society. And I was like, I'm available. Yes, there's no payments, that's okay. But at least I'm investing my knowledge and expertise into somebody else who might probably change the world up there. So that's how I came to join the mentorship movement, motivated by, I guess, my drive and spirit to uplift the community, particularly um, entrepreneurs who are operating on the minimal resources that they may have access to.
How has mentorship supported your personal, professional, or entrepreneurial journey?
Mm. Um, I guess in my personal space, nothing is that satisfying to me like helping the next person, especially if that person will bring about positive change to the society. It gives me the most satisfaction. So I guess personally, that's how me being part of this mentorship program actually helped me personally. Then in terms of the professional space, I guess the time I had mentees with the mentorship movement, it was before. Yeah, I was in leadership and management, but it was before I was really deep in leadership and management, like I am now, which I believe having that part on my CV, I believe it did contribute perhaps me getting into the role that I'm in right now, which is quite a hot seat where I find myself having to mentor multiple people, not just um, one team that's running a small company, but I'm leading like a whole team of plus or minus 150 people. So I guess me having interacted with my mentees through the National Mentorship Movement did kind of like give me more insight and perhaps skill in terms of looking at things, not just doing it for my business, but sharing my insights and expertise with the next business with the aim of helping them improve their operations, improve their revenue generation, etc. Which is perhaps the same space I find myself in, not just running the operations for my own company, but running somebody else's company and making sure that it does my approach speaks to me assisting or helping the somebody else's company to actually have those positive shifts in terms of how the business runs. Then, in terms of my entrepreneurial journey, of course, having you guys on my as part of my profile, I'm sure it does boost my profile to some extent, even though I haven't really got to leverage on that as much because I think immediately after the um, the last cohort, I think which ended. When did it end, by the way? Was it around June,
I think it was
May?
around June, August, and the right
Yes.
person who would have been able to answer that is Des, and she isn't with us right now. Yeah, but I think it was
So
around the time.
after that, I think I then left the organization I was with, and since September I joined the new organization. I had to make decisions to say, you know what, yes, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm running this on the side. But here you are joining a massive organization that you have to learn about. You need to acquire all the institutional information, etc. So I had to make a decision to actually pack my private consultancy so that I can focus in um, gaining as much as I possibly can with my new employer in the shortest period of time. So I believe by the time I'm already in the pipeline of going back full on with my private consulting, probably around about April, I believe I would have already acquired enough for my employer for me to now start focusing my evenings and my weekends on my private initiative. Now, I'm sure once I go back, the fact that I've got that, and of course, the experience that I gained through the mentorship itself, as well as through the mentees I was assigned to, who actually taught me a lot of things. Some of those have got nothing to do with business management and leadership, which is about how generally you take things in life. If I may mention their names, my mentees, it was Andre and Ruth. Yes, Andre and Ruth. I must say they are probably the most resilient entrepreneurs I've ever met. Those guys taught me um, those guys taught me yes, we speak about being resilient, but what those guys have gone through is really an epitome of what um, resilience actually is. Like to the, I don't know how best I could describe the journey that Ruth and Andre went through. Those guys, I think they almost gave up, I don't know how many times. They had to make decisions, like you only hear about this when they're talking about Elon Musk and whatsoever, that they lived in the garage just to ensure that their business comes up. That's what Andre and Ruth had to go through. They couldn't give up on their business idea. They knew that there was a future in it. They made decisions that were very uncomfortable and uneasy, but the way they were so resilient, the way they were so committed to the business, the way they were so dedicated to supporting some of the local people in the community they come from, whom are the people that support them in the business, the beadwork, for the beadwork, etc. It actually taught me something different about being resilient in the business space, which I guess it's something that will forever be a part of me in my entrepreneurial journey.
Says, can you share a specific lesson or piece of advice from your mentees that changed your perspective?
Oh, okay, that's quite interesting because I think I've already shared one of those pieces of advice that were not really verbal advice, but it was through the experience of me interacting with them, which is what resilience really means in the entrepreneurial space. Then I guess the other thing, which is this was more from, I guess, personal perspective, that at the time I worked with Andre and Ruth, I was unfortunately going through a rough time in my personal life as well. But of course, I was strong enough to focus on supporting them. And I remember because Ruth and Andre are such caring and compassionate people. And I remember the kind of love and eagerness to learn that they showed me right from the first encounter when we were the Green Waterfront. And by the way, just to give you context, and I'm sure you guys would understand knowing the history of our country. So, Andre and Ruth are a white couple. And being a black guy, and of course, having worked with other clients before, were of a different race to me. And given that in the past, I have also had uncomfortable interactions with some of my clients, particularly. Okay, I believe it was just mostly because of race. But Andre and Ruth showed me a completely different kind of an experience. Where right from the beginning, they showed me love, they showed me respect, they showed me that their focus was on gaining guidance and us having a healthy working relationship together. And them being older than I am, that wasn't a factor that became or that compromised our relationship in any way. And that on its own showed me that in as much as we may still be living in a world where race can be a determinant of how healthy a relationship can be it it's a business relationship or it's just a public relationship or whatsoever. You can choose, or there are people out there who can still, how do I best put this? There are people out there that will choose. I think choosing is the wrong phrase to use with Andre and Ruth. There are people out there who are living a life which embraces, I guess, the multiracial, multicultural, rainbow society that we are living in. And I found that very inspiring of my mentees, Andre and Ruth. And I wish perhaps the whole nation could learn something from that kind of an experience. Be it you're black or you're white or you're Indian or you are colored. The fact that somebody is of a particular race, it doesn't necessarily mean that if they are of a particular race, they're either smarter than you are because of the race they are part of, or it doesn't mean that they may be less useful or inspiring, or they might not as contribute to your expectations because of their race. Race is just skin color. It's not a measure, it's not directly proportional to the amount of wisdom or wealth, wealth in terms of knowledge that one actually has. So I think for me, that was something that I found very inspiring. And I think it's something that actually drove our relationship very effectively, because our focus was mostly on the work to be done, not on building relational aspects and all that. They made it so easy for us. So we just focused on the main things, the main business. Yeah. I wish all my clients were just like what Ruth and Andre are, honestly. And by the way, this doesn't only go, it's not only racial. Oops. Can you hear me?
Yes, we are.
Apparently.
Okay, yes. I thought maybe I switched up my thing. So it also does happen because I think as the black community as well, like you'll get assigned somebody to support you and you look at them, you're like, he looks quite young. What am I going to benefit from him? Or what am I going to benefit from her? So also this does happen also within racial grounds, informed by the age and other demographics, which I think as entrepreneurs, it will be so important for one to humble themselves and actually focus on the main aspects of why you would want to develop a relationship with the next person in the first place. Be it somebody who's going to be your mentor or your coach, or it's even your client. Never judge them based on how tall they are than you are, or short they are than you are, or how younger they are than you are, or what skin color they are than you are, or whatsoever other measure, whether they are female or they are male, kind of thing. I wish all my clients could have the same kind of perspective and line of thinking and approach as Andre and Ruth actually. Bangabantu, let me put it that way.
Thank you so much. I'm even eager to meet Andre and Ruth.
They
The
are
way you're
amazing.
explaining them, the
They
way
are
you,
amazing people.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. What challenges has mentorship helped you overcome?
Huh. What challenges has mentorship helped over? Oh, by the way, yes. Just like I mentioned, I'm not really a talker or a speaker, but I'm more of a doer. And I believe every time I get to interact with people, that always contributes towards growing my own self-confidence. And it does also, I guess, contribute towards how well I express myself verbally. So I guess being part of Ruth and Andre's journey did help me overcome that kind of insecurity, because I know myself. Yes, okay. People around me think I express myself very well, but maybe in my head, I've got, what's that syndrome called? It's called where you always believe you are not good enough, kind of thing, or you don't believe you are as good as people say you are, kind of thing. Is it imposter syndrome? Is it what it's called? Something like that.
I don't
Yeah.
remember what it's called, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
So yeah, so within me, I still sometimes believe that perhaps I'm not as a good speaker and I'm not as good at expressing myself. But I guess every opportunity that I get to have a conversation with people, which I do a lot with strangers as well, by the way, intentionally, so as to kind of continuously grow my confidence. I do that a lot with strangers. So having that kind of relationship, mentorship relationship with Ruth and Andre definitely did contribute towards how I perceive myself, particularly in the space that I just informed you about. Then also maybe another challenge that this relationship that I had with Andre and Ruth is going to contribute towards is, as somebody whose company is still developing and growing, having them as part of the clients that I've supported, it will definitely help. It will definitely contribute positively towards the challenge that most entrepreneurs go through, which is accumulating the client base, which is clients they get to reach out to. Because Andre and Ruth might tell maybe their friends that there is this guy, he might help you with that. And perhaps from some of the testimonies that Andre and Ruth would provide, somebody else could reach out to me, and that's how you grow your client base. So I guess in retrospectively, I see it as something that's going to help me overcome the challenge of struggling to get more and more clients.
Thank you for that. How has your relationship with your mentees influenced your confidence, growth, or opportunities?
It's as if I knew that that question was coming actually. So I've already spoke to the confidence part. And I guess I've already spoken to all three in a nutshell in my previous response. Yeah. But I can repeat if you want me to.
It's okay. You don't have to. What does mentoring through National Mentorship Movement mean to you personally?
Maybe I could respond to this from two perspectives, which I may have touched on a bit earlier, which is having an understanding of how lonely the entrepreneurship and leadership space can be. It gives me so much satisfaction just helping the next leader or helping the next entrepreneur grow possibly quicker than they would have without my intervention, or solve their problems possibly quicker or faster than they would without my intervention. And secondly, I guess for my business, seeing that I'm in the space of, maybe just to give you a brief background on what Apply Consulting does. So given the kind of background that I've mentioned, so Apply Consulting was actually established to help entrepreneurs and small business and small companies with the challenges that I mentioned earlier on, as well as business leaders. Then what we then chose to focus on is mostly your business strategy consulting, which most people will start maybe their Magwinya small spas are over there, not because they've got passion in running a business, no, but they will start it because they want to use it as a way of putting food on the table. Now, does that person know how to market their business? Does that person know how to work out their break-even point when they have to order stuff and process the stuff and sell the stuff in such a way that they won't make a loss? Many a times, no. And does that person know that they are supposed to register their business? Sometimes they don't. Does that person know that they are supposed to be registered with SARS? Sometimes people just don't really think about those things, not because they are being ignorant on them, but because perhaps there isn't as much knowledge they don't have as much knowledge about all the dynamics around running a business. So we do support with that. Then secondly, we do support with leadership leadership development, which is, let's say somebody is having a challenge with their human resources, or somebody's having a challenge with they're just not making any profit, etc. So I do focus on developing the leaders. And thirdly, things like business process optimization. For example, with my mentees, they were being told they're not generating enough revenue for the space that they were allocated to. How do you go about ensuring that your processes within your business are as lean as they possibly can, and you're making the most than you are spending, etc. And of course, including marketing, etc. Then also, change is one of the most difficult things in anybody's life, be it personally or professionally, of which the same thing happens to leaders and companies. There are times when you have to deal with change. Imagine you've got 10 staff of even one person, or even 10 people, or even 100 people. How do you get to convince people that no, now we are not going to do the things the way you have done them in the past 20 years, we'll do them this way now on? That's always a nightmare. So I started Aptly because I wanted to help small businesses and companies and entrepreneurs, and also entities that are in education particularly, kind of like give them support with regards to those. For example, right now, I'm actually thinking of taking about 4 or 5 other small businesses from my church particularly, and see how I can best support them at no cost at all. 100% of the fees will be waived. So that's where I get my satisfaction.
Thank you so much. The last question, it says, in what ways do you see yourself paying it forward in the future?
I guess to some extent I've already touched on it, but the first thing maybe that I can mention is, with the next cohort, if you guys were happy with the work that I did, I wouldn't mind contributing back to the society through mentoring another business or other businesses. Then, and I guess having the skill, I can't remember whom I was mentioning this to. I think it was to, what's her name, by the way? One of your colleagues?
Ross?
Rose, yes. I think it was with Rose. When I was telling her that, you know what? The business model canvas was something that I did as part of my MBA, but it was just in passing. I did it because I wanted to pass. And of course, I just collected information and data from somebody. But it was more for me to get the answers so I can put it together and submit and pass. But it becomes quite a different thing when you have to do the business model canvas, knowing that whatever that goes onto this canvas is either going to make or break somebody's business. So it gave me a different experience with business model canvas, interacting with it, but in the context of a real life business. And I guess it's something that it broke the ice in terms of how I get to use it in real life business. And I guess it's something that I'll forever cherish, the fact that I've had the experience of using it with real life business. Yeah, as one of the tools, of course. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Novosti. Toy, is there anything you would like to add on before we can close the interview?
I just wanted to mention that I believe I was still part of VNA when you mentored Andre and Ruth, because I do remember that the lead company. And if it is them that I do remember, what I remember most about them is that they're the most polite couple I've ever met. Yeah, it means we're talking about the same people. I remember them very well. So I can definitely relate to what you're saying about them.
Yeah.
Very, very polite people.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And when somebody is to hear me talking about them, they will think, no, you're just over exaggerating this. But I'm glad that you can kind of like put the names to the faces. They are really,
Yeah, no, definitely.
they're just really the most amazing people I've met as my clients. They are the most
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, I do remember that about them. And thank you for being there, for mentoring them. Hopefully, you know, they did soak in all the knowledge that you provided them. And as you mentioned, you also got something from them. And as we said, NMM hashtag the power of two to two-way street. So yeah, no, grateful for your service and being part of NMM. And I will definitely pass on the message to Des to say you are available for the next cohort.
Oh yeah. And by the
Yeah.
way, I might have left my previous. So or maybe that's another way actually that NMM actually helped me, because I believe me being involved with you guys was actually a trigger of me leaving my previous organization. It's a whole story, but God works in amazing ways. Like I think it was probably a good thing that I got involved with you guys. Otherwise, had I not been involved with you guys, probably I will still be in the same space, having not grown. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, whatever that happened with my previous employer, it was very disappointing to me, but I guess it was all part of the journey
Mm.
to grow. Yeah. So God just puts his puzzle pieces here and there. You might not see it when it
Yeah.
happens, but if you need to say, you get to reflect, you'll be like, you know what? If I wasn't at that spot at that time, I wouldn't be where I am right now. Or if I hadn't done A, B, C, D, indirectly, that's what could have actually contributed for you to move from one place to the other. Yeah, which I'm very grateful um, for having worked with you guys. Yeah.
No, we're also grateful for that. You know, thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
I'm all good on my side. Thank you so much for taking our call when we thought of people who would be part of our 10-year anniversary campaign. We really appreciate that, and we really appreciate you as
Thank
well.
you. Enjoy the rest of your evening and we'll be in touch.
All right, sure. You guys enjoy your evening and let's keep in touch.
All right. Thank you. Sharp, sharp.
Okay. Okay, sure.
Bye.